Welcome back and happy Halloween. So, today I'll be looking at the instants that are in Magic the Gathering Shandalar. And before I start, it's worth noting that at the time in Magic, I believe there was a distinction between instant and interrupt, which has mostly kind of gone away, I think, completely these days. But at the time, I think there was an idea that interrupts were something which could change how an instant, someone else's instant, was played. I think a classic example would be something like Lifelink, which could. It's kind of it is redundant when you consider it in today's Magic, kind of the LIFO rule, where last in first out. Because if somebody casts a spell and somebody casts an instant on top of that, it should already by default, just by being the last card cast, take precedence over it. But I think the intention behind interrupts was that it would take an instant and change its behavior, such as changing its target, or I'm not really sure. Really, I mean, even now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, counter spells an instant, blue elemental blast is an instant. I will actually just double check while I'm here. Yeah, because I've got down here on the filters interrupt. These are interrupt cards, but they're, at least in my mind, they're all instant. So yeah, I guess counterspell was an interrupt at some point. And the UI in this game, at least in this version, which I believe should be like the release version of Shandalar, I'm guessing all of these. Yeah, fork. So changing targets was an interrupt, but modern day Magic, they're all instants, and I think interrupt is now redundant. Either way, bit of a boring segue. Basically, I will be dealing with all of the instants and interrupts as instants because that's just how I think Magic is now interpreted. So, let's get started without further ado with our rankings. So, Alabaster Potion. Choose one, target player gains X life or prevent the next X damage that will be dealt to target creature or player this turn. So it's, in essence, it is a slightly worse version of Healing Salve. It's nice that it's pumpable. Obviously, in Shandalar, all life gain is really valuable. I don't know whether to put this in A or B. Maybe I'll change my mind. I would say A for now, and I might change my mind going forwards. I just think life gain is really valuable. I'll have to double check the cost of Stream of Life, because that's the green kind of similar to the green version. I guess you obviously could use Alabaster Potion for damage prevention, but it's more likely to be used just for life gain. Yeah, so this one I'm just going to look at the camera and just do this, because seriously, Ancestral Recall is hilariously, unbelievably broken and so powerful. It's the Pot of Greed of Magic. You'll see similar functions in newer cards that cost 8 times as much. Drawing 3 cards is extremely powerful. You can even use it as an offensive spell. You can force your opponent to keep drawing cards and force them to discard cards and force them to deck out. Yeah, S, clearly S, if not SSS, just by itself, it's kind of crazy. I mean, if you're playing Shandalar in Wizard mode and you're playing a blue deck and you want to win, you will have as many copies of this as you can get. So yeah, that's an easy one. Army of Allah. I don't think I've actually run this card myself. I don't really remember it. Attacking creatures get +2/0 until end of turn. So yeah, it's kind of like a Worse Howl from Beyond, which we'll get to later. It's a very strong card. Would I consider this on the same level as Alabaster Potion? No. I think it's good. I think it's a good card. It's all right, but I'm going to put it as B, I think. Artifact Blast, counter target artifact spell. I think this is another useful one, and especially for red, which is kind of lacking in just pure interrupts of this kind. I mean, it has Shatter, and I think Shatter. I think there's Shatter Artifact and maybe Shatter Storm, if that's in Shandalar. I can't remember. I'm going to put this at B as well. I think it's good, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know. It's a 1 red cost counter. Ooh, it's tough. It could be A or B. I'm going to put it in B for now, and we'll see where we get to. Berserk. I don't remember this one. Cast Berserk only before the combat damage step. Target creature gains trample and gets X +0 until end of turn, where X is the power. Beginning of the next streak, destroy that creature if it attacks. Oh, this is kind of rubbish. It's like Giant Growth, but way worse. That's probably a C. Yeah, it's just... I don't think pumping up once and then destroying it is really worth it. Particularly in Shandalar, where... Especially, I think endurance is kind of the theme of a lot of Shandalar duels. You wouldn't be so eager to just use a creature as a one-off sacrifice. Yeah. Blaze of Glory. I don't remember this one at all. Target creature defending player controls can block any number of creatures this turn if it blocks. It blocks each attacking creature this turn if able. Never use this card. It's kind of like temporary banding. I get no, it's not. Can block any number of creatures. I guess it's useful in the sense of like if you're on a losing foot, you can force one weak creature to block many creatures. It's a bit niche, I think. I like the fact it's very cheap, but it's not a card I've used. I'm tempted just to put it in B or C, because it's just not... As we'll see, there are much more immediately useful spells. I'll put it in C. Yeah, C. We'll change. I'll see how I feel. Bloodlust. If target creature has a toughness 5 or greater, it gets +4, -4 until end of turn. Otherwise, it gets +4, -X. So basically, more or less, it's reducing its toughness to 1, but then you get the power +4. I think Bloodlust is pretty useful. It's like Howl from Beyond, but has a slight drawback. I'll put this in B. I think not a card I've run, but I can definitely see it being very useful for particularly for a red deck, being able to, imagine you've got a 1/1, just use Bloodlust to, a bit like kind of like Wild Growth. I mean, not Wild Growth. Name's completely forgotten me. It's the card I said 10 seconds ago. Giant Growth. So yeah, let's put that in a... might even be A. Because Giant Growth, I'd say, would be an A. And Bloodlust is just Giant Growth, but slightly worse. So no, it's got to be a B. Blue Elemental Blast. I would say this is an A for sure. Really useful because it's so cheap, but it's not as good as spells which are coming up very soon. So yeah, let's put that. Did I say A or B? A. Boomerang. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. This is pretty useful for blue. It's a very useful way of delaying the kind of the opponent's attempt to kind of put something expensive on the field. It's also really useful for destroying anything attached, like any enchantments will obviously have no valid target left. But do I put Boomerang as an A? I don't think it's quite A material, because it's 9 times out of 10 you'll be casting Boomerang on the creature, and the creature just comes back the next turn, and so it's just delaying the inevitable. So yeah, I'm going to put it as B. Chaos Lace is one of the lace spells, so this would have been an interrupt. Target spell or permanent becomes red. I think it's pretty useful, particularly if you're running, well, essentially completely if you're running anything with like protection against red, or you've got circuit protection red. I guess right now I'll have to decide. I'll have to put all of the lace spells, because you've got Chaos Lace, Life Lace, Death Lace. I can't remember what the other one's called off the top of my head, but never mind, we'll find out. Would they be A's or B's? This is a toughie. Would I say it's obviously Ancestral Recall is going to be almost its own category, but there are a couple of other instances that I would say are S. Alabaster Potion, Blue Elemental Blast. Would I say Chaos Lasers? No, it's not as inherently useful as those. So it's a strong B, I think. It's a strong B. I'll put all the laces in B, we'll see. Counterspell, would probably just put it as an S because it's so useful. It's the cheapest way of countering spells that doesn't involve some kind of, it's not like Force of Will or Remand, I think is another one. Can't remember if it's blue. I think it's blue. It's either blue or white blue. But yeah, Counterspell's an S. I think it's great. I think all blue decks should have this in Shandalar. It's so useful. And it's a really fun card to play, and it really rewards careful choices, because obviously you can Counterspell something, as soon as you can, just Counterspell anything, or you wait for the right moment to really screw them up. So yeah, I love Counterspell. Crumble. Destroy target artifact. It can't be regenerated. That artifact's controller gains life equal to its converted mana cost. Yeah, I think this is useful. It definitely shows how, in my opinion, how underpowered red is when you can compare it to Artifact Blast, which kind of has to be cast as an interrupt. But Crumble can take an artifact that's on the field, destroy it, and also it's useful. You can use it on yourself. Really, you can use it on your own artifact if need be. So I would put Crumble. Now I have to think. Maybe I should move some of these, because Crumble is good, but is it A good? We will see. We will see. Dark Ritual is probably an S. Incredibly useful card. I think I can't think of any reason why a black deck wouldn't want Dark Ritual. The only downside was mana burn, and I don't really know if I'm considering mana burn in my lists, because, like I said in my last video, the more recent releases / mods of this game get rid of mana burn. But even so, there are lots of black ways to pump stuff, so you would never suffer the consequences anyway. So yeah, I'm going to put Dark Ritual as an S for sure. Darkness is quite useful. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn. It's quite a nice defense, especially if you're kind of goading your enemy into thinking, yes, you can attack and potentially attack me and win. But darkness is a nice way of just very cheaply preventing all of it from happening, and obviously leaving your opponent's creatures potentially tapped. Is it A category? Yeah, I think it's A. I may have to change my mind about a lot of these, because I may have too many in a certain range. Death Ward. Regenerate target creature. I like Death Ward, but I feel like there's enchantments that do this better. It's basically prevent the death of a creature as it happens. I would say by and large it's not that useful, because from my experience of playing Shandalar, I would say the lion's share of creature deaths are caused by attacks from other creatures. So if there's a creature with a higher power than your creature's toughness and it gets destroyed in combat, the same event is going to repeat itself in one turn's time. So a card which puts that off for one turn, as opposed to a card, for example, Holy Strength, which might prevent this whole scenario from happening in the first place, is more useful. So I might put Death Ward as B. And we'll see. Death Lace as one of the laces is a B. But that's no criticism of it. I like all the lace spells. Disenchant is incredibly useful and important. It destroys an artifact or an enchantment. This is essential in Shandalar runs if you're running any deck that uses white mana. I'm tempted to put it into S, because I've used it so much and it's been so useful. Ubiquitous, really, because it's just so flexible. In fact, it deals with all those things. So yeah, I'm going to put Disenchant as an S. Maybe there needs to be an SS for Ancestral Recall by itself, but never mind. Divine Offering is interesting. It's slightly better than Crumble. Well, no, it's the same because it's slightly more expensive. The difference being that you always get the life gain. I like Divine. I think Divine Offering's good. I think Disenchant's just slightly better because it's more useful, more flexible. So Divine Offering is an A. Yeah. Eye for an eye. The next time a source of your choice will deal damage to you this turn, instead that source deals that much damage to you, and Eye for an eye deals that much damage to the source's controller. Have I read that wrong? The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you, instead the source deals that much damage to you, and Eye for an eye. I remember losing a certain duels against somebody with Eye for an eye, so I think it is quite useful. I think it's basically damages just repeated to the source of the damage. I'm confused thinking that I've read the card wrong, because I thought Eye for an eye redirected damage, but no, it doesn't. That puts it as a less useful category then. I feel like, there's slightly better cards for dealing with damage, I think. I'll put it as B. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Fish is an A for sure. Incredibly useful. Land, the fact that it can destroy creatures or lands, it is an expensive card for sure, but land destruction is really valuable. It's not on the same level as something like Blight or Terror, so I think black has better options, but I like Fisher. Worth the cost. Maybe I'm being too generous. Fog, prevent all combat damage that we dealt this turn. So this is the green version of darkness. So I'd have to rank them both the same because they are exactly the same. Force Spike, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. This is useful. I just prefer counter spell just because it always works without any intervention. Force Spike, you can definitely, a bit like, there are some other similar blue spells which are like, if you, the scenario is, and this has happened to me, I've been on the receiving end of this, is you tap all of your land to do something, and you're prompted to, you have to pay 1 more mana, and you can't because you've used all of your sources. So I think Force Spike is probably an A. I don't think I've used this card, to be honest. Not one I really remember. Fork is good. I've played Fork recently in a mono red run, and I think I dropped it in the end because I would just rather have a second. Like if I have, if I've got a sorcery or instant card that I want to copy, normally I would just bring another copy. I think Fork's intention is to copy your opponent's cards, sort of thing. I think I'll just put it as B. I think it's good, but it's not incredible. And obviously, you can potentially it could potentially be a dead card in your hand if your opponent is not using instants or sorceries that you want to copy. Giant Growth. Oh, it's tempting to put it as an S because it is really good, but often I've found that quite often in Magic, you can kind of see this coming when your opponent has, what your opponent will do is if you're fighting a green deck, they attack you with 1 creature that's weaker than your strongest creature, and you think, you're setting yourself up to use Giant Growth, and it can do a lot of damage. I don't know if it's S level because I've put some very good cards in S, like Ancestral Recall, Counterspell. Oh, it's tough. I don't know. I'm going to put it in S for now, and I'm allowed to change my mind. We'll see. Great Defender, target creature gains +0/+X until end of turn, where X is its converted mana cost. It's alright, but I think Righteousness is better, so B. but I can't remember the cost of righteousness. So Guardian Angel, I don't remember this one. Prevent the next X damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. Until end of turn, you may pay 1 at any time you could cast an instant. If you do, prevent the next 1 damage that we dealt to target creature, to that creature or player this turn. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of implying that that same creature is going to be taking damage multiple times, which does happen. I don't know how I would feel about having to pay X, so preventing every point of damage for the first instance, and then have to pay again and again every other time. The card that's coming up next is just a better version of this, I think. And so is out. And yeah, Alabaster Potion's a bit simpler to use. I'd say B. B. Healing Salvers. I would say Healing Salvers an A. The only reason why it's not an S is just because it kind of feels like delaying the inevitable, sort of. Because mostly I've fought opponents that use Healing Salve on themselves when they're losing, and it doesn't really prevent them from losing, but maybe I'm being too harsh in my judgment. I'm going to put it as A, I think. I mean, life gain is really useful, but there are better... I don't know, it's tough. It is a really good card. Just because it's very cheap. It's one of these classic 1 mana to do 3 of something, like Ancestral Recall, Dark Ritual, Healing Salve, Giant Growth. They all do something with the 3. I just don't know if I'd put it up on I don't know if I'd prioritise Healing Salve on the same level I would Dark Ritual. That's the thing. I think Dark Ritual is more useful. So, the strongest A possible. Hell Swarm, all creatures get -1/0 until end of turn. I don't really know what the point of Hell Swarm is when darkness and fog exist. Because why not just prevent all the damage for the almost the same cost? Is darkness 1 black, or is it? Yeah. No, I think Hell Swarm might be the first F. I think it's bad. Yeah, I don't see... I could understand if it was 0 -1, because that would potentially destroy lots of weak creatures, but no. Card art's cool, but I'm going to put that as an F. Holy Day. Prevent all combat damage that will be out this turn. Yeah, just like Fog and Darkness. Same level, which I put as an A. Useful, cheap. It's good. Holy Light. Non-white creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. I think this is an alright card. It's a bit expensive. I do like the -1/-1 because it can destroy lots of... And in fact, now I'm thinking about it, it is a useful card because there are certain black creatures that have a low toughness but can regenerate. But if you're knocking out many of them at once, and also it's an instant, so you can time it well. So you can time it, for example, if you're fighting like somebody with Will of the Wisps in play, this would, in theory, destroy them all at the right time. Yeah, I think it's good. I'm going to put Holy Light as an A. Not one I've used, but it's good. Questionable card art, but talented. How From Beyond is probably an S for me, I think. Just because I've lost so many jewels by a surprise Howl from Beyond, because they just attack with a 1/1 and then suddenly it's an 11/1. It's a really useful card. Yeah, and Pool is really coming through. In my last video, like almost all of the card art that I really liked was by this one person, so it's very cool. S. Hercule's Recall is probably an S as well, just because it just has a really powerful effect, honestly. If you're fighting somebody that, like a shapeshifter that has control of, 7 or 8 artifacts, choosing the right time to send them all back to their hand then obliges them to have to discard them because their hand size is too big. It's also useful for defending your own artifact creatures. Yeah, I would say Hercule's Recall is an S. Maybe A, just because not all decks are going to be artifact heavy enough. Ooh, it's tough. Yeah, I'm going to put it as A. Card art's really cool as well. Inferno. Inferno deals 6 damage to each creature and each player, and with the right setup, this is a really useful card. If you're running something like Circular Protection Red, it's very fun to just unleash lots of spells like this that damage everyone. And then you've got creatures with protection from red as well. I'm a big fan of Inferno. I might just say strong A. Just because it's quite expensive, obviously, and requires the setup to work. Jump is definitely an A. Very useful as a surprise. I think we saw an enchantment last video, which was Flight. I preferred Jump only because of the surprise mechanic behind it, which is quite fun. So yeah, Jump's an A. Life Lace is a B, along with all the other lace spells. Yeah. Lightning Bolt is definitely an S, and it's about time Red got an S. This card is considered to be very strong. It's one of the 1 mana 3 things cards. You see similar cards, like more modern cards that have a higher cost. It's I think it's been considered as slightly overpowered. It's a really nice way of dealing quick damage to an opposing player. Or normally, I think the purpose of Lightning Bolt is normally to destroy creatures that get summoned kind of before they can pose a threat to you. And by and large, I think most creatures have a toughness of 3 or less, especially early to mid duel. And obviously this is when you would just chain multiple lightning bolts together. Potentially with one hand you could do 9 or 12 damage, which is great for a very low cost. So yeah, lightning bolt is an S. Big fan of that one. Magical Hack is an S because it's so ubiquitously useful with loads of other cards, like we saw yesterday with Karma, Life Tap, anything, or Spiritual Sanctuary, anything which depends on a type of land. You can kind of turn everything to your advantage, both offensively and defensively. For example, if you're fighting somebody with a deck that grants, I think it's called the Zombie Master. No, the Zombie Master is the card. I can't remember what the name of the duelist is that uses it, but you can use stuff like Magical Hat to just change Swamp Walk to something irrelevant to protect yourself. Really, really useful. Very nice utility card. Mana Short is alright. Tap all lands target player controls and empty his or her mana pool. You can do this at the start of an enemy's turn to kind of make it so they don't really have any mana to use. The fact it's an instant allows you to do that. I think it's good. I'd say A. Not too expensive. Thinking should it be B, but no, I think A is fine. Marsh Gas, all creatures get -2/-0 until end of turn. It's kind of falling under the same category of Hell's Warm. I do actually think Marsh Gas is slightly more useful, so I'm going to put it in C because it's not useful, because the -2 makes it, you could justify that, but it's still just categorically worse than some other ones we've seen. Morale, attacking creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. I don't think it's a great card. I think it's quite a weak effect. The +1s are okay, but with +1s you kind of expect that to be something permanent like Crusade, which is why I rated Crusade so highly. I think for the cost it's asking for, it's not quite justified enough, so I'm going to put it as a B. Natural Selection. Look at the top 3 cards of target player's library, then put them back in any order. This is the classic scry, before scry was a keyword. I think it's quite good. I wouldn't rank it higher than other effects that allow for card drawing. It's weird because it's one of the situations where it's like, I can slightly rearrange the top of my deck to get the cards I need, but rather than bring Natural Selection, why not just bring the cards you need? So I'm going to put it as B. Maybe that's too harsh, but I am willing to be proved wrong. Orcish Catapult is a astral exclusive card, and I remembered this time to put it in my list. It's quite fun. Randomly distribute X number of -0, -1 counters among random number of random target creatures. So yeah, it's astral because it's based on complete randomness. However, you can. I haven't tried to make this in a deck, but it's not impossible. You could sort of game this card by, if you don't have control over any creatures. Let me say that again. If you don't have control of any creatures and your opponent does, that means that every counter is guaranteed to be useful to you. Yeah, I think this could be, considering astral cards can be quite weird and random, I think this is pretty solid. I'd say it's B, strong B. It's not that bad. Maybe soon I will try and make that work in a deck. Piety, blocking creatures get +0/+3 until end of turn. This is quite good, I think. I feel like this is something that could be really useful. I mean, the fact it's all blocking creatures and it's +3 is worth the cost. I guess the problem with a card like this is you're going to be. I'm trying to think. Will the attack against you be a surprise that justifies? Like you need to basically make sure you've got 3 mana free on your opponent during your opponent's turn. I don't know. Maybe B. I'd say B just because Holy Day or something is innately more useful. But yeah, it's not bad. Power Sink. Counter target spell unless its controller plays X. If he or she doesn't, that player taps all lands with mana abilities he or she controls and empties his or her mana pool. This is a good card. I still prefer Counterspell, just because you have to pay up whatever they're paying for. The fact it taps everything out is useful. I would probably put Power Sink as an A, along with Force Spike. It's one of those good blue interrupts, but not the best blue interrupt. Psionic Blast deals 4 damage to target creature or player and 2 damage to you. It's a bit niche. I think there's a creature that does this, Psionic Entity or Psionic something that does it. I haven't tried to use any sort of like protection against blue and Psionic Blast deck because it's an instant, it's not really repeatable. I mean, buyback's not a thing. If buyback existed in Shandalar, then maybe. I think I'll just put it as B. I think it's just like and it's not bad, but it's not up there with Lightning Bolt. Pure Lace is a B. Red Elemental Blast is fun. I would say it's actually a little bit more useful than Blue Elemental Blast because there are more. Maybe I'm making this up. Maybe there are more blue instants that you would want to interrupt or counter. What did I say? Yeah, A. Yeah. Remove Soul, counter target creature spell. It is like a ever so slightly worse counter spell. I think I wouldn't use Remove Soul. I would rather have a card which is more likely to counter any spell. It's cheap though. Strong B, maybe. Maybe that's too harsh. Not sure. Cast Reset only during an opponent's turn after his or her upkeep step. Untap all lands you control. I've never used Reset. I don't think it's worth the effort to have Reset. That's just my humble opinion. So I'm going to put it in. Yeah, I just feel like. Yeah, so at the start of your opponent's turn. I don't know. It's during the upkeep step, so. Yeah, that gives you. I've never used Reset, so I'm not sure. I'm just going to put it as B. No, see, I think it's not super useful because your enemy see, your opponent's going to see it coming from a mile away. Like, oh, they've untapped all their lands on my turn. They're clearly looking for a way to use or do something on their turn, on my turn, like counter a spell or pump something. It's yeah, and obviously your opponent's turn is when they've untapped all of their lands. So that's like the worst. I like Magic because it's the thinking man's game. I'm going to put this as C. I don't think it's that good. Sorry if you disagree. Reverse damage is what I was thinking of before. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage, you gain life equal to the damage prevented this way. I like reverse damage. I used to always think of the card art would look like Michael Jackson. Don't know why, but just is for some weird reason. I've always thought this was a weird kind of freaky face, or like a mask or something. So bonus points for the evocative, strange card art. I think it's going to go into B though. I think it's a little bit specific. It's not as, and the cost is a bit expensive as well. What did I put I for an I in? B. Yeah, I think reverse damage and I for an I are on par. No, I disagree. I think reverse damage is better than I for an I because of the life gain. Oh, I don't know. A or B. It's a tough. This has been much harder than I thought. I was thinking about how I was going to make this video and thinking like, oh yeah, I know. I'm going to categorize this really easily. I know all these cards. Just you have to try and think of all the different situations this card could be useful in. Yeah, I think reverse damage is good because it prevents the damage and you gain life on top of it. I for an I is you have to take the damage and then deal it. Yeah, I'm going to put reverse damage as A, which puts it on par with Healing Salve. We'll see. Reverse polarity. You gain X life where X is twice the damage dealt to you so far this turn by artifacts. Oh, that's really rubbish. It's just like Damping Field. Like, just so specific. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad card, but it's so niche. I'm not going to give it the F treatment. I don't think it's useless, but it's just not one I'd jump to. Meanwhile, Righteousness could be S. Righteousness is really good. Target blocking creature gets 7/7. Amazing for, fighting something like a Pit Lord or something, or Force of Nature. And it's just so satisfying. Yeah, it's definitely going to S because I've just remembered how fun this is. It's so satisfying pulling out Righteousness out of nowhere. Yeah, wonderful. And it's something that your opponent will fall into as a trap. They won't see it coming. Really, really cheap. Yeah, love it. Riptide, tap all blue creatures. I guess you would use this. I've never used this card. I'm guessing you would use it if you are fighting, or dueling, I should say, dueling a blue deck, and it's the beginning of your opponent's turn. Activated before combat phase. Just tap everything they have. I'd put it in C maybe. I don't think it's that useful. Because I'm trying to think. I mean, you could do something like... No, I don't remember if Twiddle is in Shandalar. I'm pretty sure it is. If it's not, then I will apologise. But Twiddle is the better Riptide. Maybe. Not sure. Sacrifice. As an additional cost to cast sacrifice a creature. Add to your mana pool an amount of black mana equal to the sacrifice creatures in converted mana cost. This is like Burnt Offering, which is a card that I really like, and I think Burnt Offering should be... This is something I'm probably planning on doing in the future, but I'm going to have a video of like cards that should have been included in the game by default. I think Burnt Offering should be one of them because it's such a cool card. But we're talking about Sacrifice, and this is just the slightly simpler version of Burnt Offering. I think it's all right. I mean, if you have creatures you're willing to dispose of so quickly, they're going to be cheap creatures anyway, so it's going to have to be... I've not used Sacrifice, so maybe I am not speaking from enough experience. I think Dark Ritual outclasses Sacrifice in every way, basically. I'm willing to listen to arguments about why Sacrifice should be better, or should be considered as a good card. Add 2 mana pool equal to... Yeah, that's... I guess it doesn't cost life, and a lot of black effects cost life, so actually I think Sacrifice could be worth an A. Is it as good as Healing Salve? Yeah, I think it could be useful. Yeah, not one I've used, but I would maybe use it. I don't know. I think it's quite good. I've just noticed that in my video it's slightly coming off the screen, but never mind. Sandstorm. Sandstorm does 1 damage to each attacking creature. This is actually a surprisingly useful card early on in a duel, and it's also useful because it's a complete surprise, and it completely changes the, obviously just in your combat phase when you're declaring attackers, you're doing a bit of arithmetic of what will happen when I attack, what will I destroy, and how can I keep my creatures safe while I attack. So surprise Sandstorm to especially against certain opponents that have like an array of weak creatures attacking you. I think Sandstorm's an A. I think it is really useful, and I like the card art. So there you go. I don't remember this card at all. Sewers of Estark. I don't remember this. Choose target creature. If it's attacking, it's unblockable this turn. If it's blocking, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn by it and each creature it's blocking. It's interesting. It's a bit too expensive, though, for what it is. And the unblockable effect is interesting, but... For a cost of 4, I'd say B. I really like the card art though. I wonder what set this is from, because I don't remember it. Shatter, destroy target artifact. Yeah, this is good. You can tell that Disenchant is superior to Shatter because it doesn't involve... I think Red basically has no enchantment removal, which in my future video of why Red is at such a disadvantage in Shandalar, that is a big reason. I'm just having a look at other cards I've already placed and seeing where Shatter should fit. Probably B. B or A? No, B. Sorry, it's nowhere near Disenchant. Shield Wall. Creatures you control get +0/+2 until end of turn. This is like a slightly worse version of Morale. It's okay. I'm just going to put it straight as B. It doesn't really call out to me as a great card. It's one of those putting off the inevitable things. And also, I feel like White has access to really good walls already, so it's kind of like a bit maybe redundant. Not sure. Simulacrum. You gain life equal to the damage dealt to you this turn. Simulacrum deals damage to target creature you control equal to the damage dealt to you this turn. Interesting. So it's basically after taking a certain amount of damage, you can then offset that damage to a creature and gain it back. B or C, I don't know. I feel like Life Drain is just a better card for gaining life, and this is obviously coming at the cost of A, you're only negating the damage. It's not like reversal of damage, and then B, you're destroying one of your own creatures. Don't know. I love the card art. Is it Paul again? Oh my god, I need to do a video specifically about how good Paul's art is. B. Siren's Call. I have a weird feeling this card might be bugged in Shandalar, but I'm going to have to remind myself. Cast Siren's Call only during an opponent's turn before attacks are declared. Creatures the active player controls attack this turn if able. At the beginning of the next end step, destroy all non-wall creatures that the player controls that didn't attack this turn. Basically, it's you cast that and it's like, well, I'm obliging all of your creatures to attack me, and if they don't, they get destroyed. And if the way you'd set this up would be, well, if you do attack, they're going to get destroyed as well. So it's very effective with the right setup. So definitely a strong A. But I could be sure that this card doesn't quite work properly. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can think of times when I've tapped a creature for mana and then the opponent's responded afterwards with Siren's Call, and the creature can't attack because it's tapped, but I could be sure that Siren's Call has destroyed it anyway, making the card slightly more strong than it even is already, through like an illegitimate reason. But I could be wrong, and I don't remember off the top of my head. And yeah, I mean, it's an A anyway. I think it's a good card. I think it's useful. Sleight of Mind is also really useful. I would say it's only slightly less powerful than Magical Hack. But Sleight of Mind is quite nice for changing protection from X to Y. Yeah, I think I could definitely see myself using Sleight of Mind if I have creatures of with a certain protection from X, just because just the nature of Shandalar. You're always going to randomly find yourself dueling somebody of an unexpected colour, or a multicolored opponent that pulls out a creature you weren't expecting. Yeah, I think A. I like Sleight of Mind, and it's Pool again. Amazing. Spell Blast. Counter target spell with converted mana cost X. This is very, very similar to, was it Power Sync? Except it doesn't do the tapping afterwards. How much was Power Sync? Let me remind myself. Yeah, it's just slightly worse. Interesting. So maybe... I'm still tempted to put it in A for some reason, even though it doesn't have the secondary effect. Which is weird, because it's... I feel like if you're using Spell Blast, it's... No, maybe I'm wrong. In my head I was thinking, well, when it comes to choosing what to interrupt, or what to counter, you're normally going for your opponent's big spells. Like a creature or something. I guess it has to go into B because it's just Power Sync. Is there anything else I'm missing in Power Sync? Counter target spell. Target spell. Yeah, I think it has to be. It can't be on the same level as Power Sync because it's slightly worse. Stormseeker deals damage equal to the number of cards in target player's hand to that player. It's a lovely card. Love the artwork. Again, it's expensive, and I don't think it's likely that you can really take advantage of this card, because you're doing up, maximum 7 damage with 4 mana. If you're lucky. I mean, the cards that would enable you to use this card effectively would make Stormseeker itself redundant. I'm going to put it as... I think B, because it has a use. Like, every deck will be able to just have Stormseeker and deal a bit of damage. I don't think I would necessarily hold on to this card till the end game. But it's... yeah. Terror. I was talking about Terror a lot last video because it was basically better than... I've actually missed one out. I do apologise. I missed out one of my favourite cards in the entire game. I'll come back to Terror. Swords of Plowshare is a straight up S immediately. It is the best way to deal with creatures in the entire game, honestly. Yes, of course you can cause your opponent to gain life, but it's nothing compared to, your opponent will invest a lot of resources and time and a whole card from their deck dedicated to summoning something. With the cost of 1 mana, it's gone. And you can use it defensively to heal yourself in situations. I love this card. Incredibly useful. Compared to any other. And also Exile is, I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think there are very many Exile effects in Shandalar that aren't self-imposed. So, Swords to Plowshares just remove something from the game. I wonder if they used the word exile in the original, because I thought because I think exile used to be called remove from the game, I think. Yeah. Anyway, back to Terra, which I started talking about. Terra is really useful as well. It's almost an S, but you can see how for half the cost Swords to Plowshare really is such a good card. I mean, I love the card art for Terra. I'd say Terra is a really strong A, one of my favourite cards if you're playing a black deck. Oh, maybe it should be an S. See, I'm thinking I might need to make a new category called SS. Will it screw up everything I'm doing if I try and do that now? You're going to have to excuse me because I'm dumb. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I add a new... Help. I may cut this out of the video because it makes me look like an idiot, but I don't know. We'll find out. I literally can't see how to make a new category. Tell you what, I'm just going to put it in S for now, and if I work out how to divide it, I will. Thought Lace with all the other laces is a B. Tunnel is all right. I think Alibaba is a better way of doing this repeatedly. I mean, I think it taps. Or does it destroy? We'll have to find out. I think Tunnel is a B. I think it's quite good, but it's not up there. It's not amazing. Twiddle, yes, Twiddle is in Shandalar. Thank you. Yeah, Twiddle is A for sure. Twiddle is really useful. Particularly if you're running a deck that is something like Meekstone or Royal Assassin that really punishes creatures being tapped. You can also use it to do mana denial, like, if you're really desperate, you can just tap an opponent's land before they can, so they can't use it for mana. It's a solid spell. And then we have Unsummon, which is the cheaper boomerang. I think Unsummon is pretty good for its one cost. I would say Unsummon goes into A for sure. Right, I am going to try and work out how to categorize this, and if I change my mind or not. I will see you shortly.
As a Magic player, you must construct a deck out of creatures, lands, and spells.
A deck is built out of cards you have carefully selected to rub your opponent out.
Welcome back. So I have gone and split S into S and SS, just for super amazing and special. An SS would be Ancestral Recall, Dark Ritual, Swords to Plowshares, and Lightning Bolt. I think they are, without a doubt, up there as the best, most useful instant spells in the whole game. S obviously still being very, very good. I couldn't work out how to add a new category, but just imagine Hell Swarms in an F, because I just don't understand why it exists compared to other cards that do better for the same cost. But yeah, so that is my ranking of all the instant and interrupt spells in Shandalar, and I will definitely be doing another ranking video because these are really fun for me to do. love this game. I might just slightly put off creatures because there are hundreds and hundreds of creature cards and that would take hours. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and have a happy Halloween.